Bobcats, and welcome back to The Sage. This week we have a big show with a COVID-19 and school reopening update by Maya Chanai, a story on Black Lives Matter from Leo Ambrogelly and Tomiris, and last but not least, Cooper Hancock and Nick Cepek with an update on sports. Let's get into it. COVID-19 and school reopenings has been on everyone's mind lately. Let's check in with Maya Chanai to get the latest information.
Thanks, Malea. Although California has the most cases with 831,437 reports, Texas now has the largest amount of cases in the last 7 days with 32,149 cases, compared to California's 22,631 weekly cases. This Sunday, 5 new deaths were reported in San Diego, bringing our total San Diego death toll to 803. Our cases have risen with 409 newly reported cases on Saturday, which was a notable jump since there were 306 reported cases on Friday. This has been the highest in 3 weeks, making 57 cases per 100,000. Due to the spike of recent cases, San Diego is dangerously close to falling back into the purple category. With more and more cases, we are being pulled closer to another outpour of business shutdowns. Regardless of the threat of being pushed into the purple tier, the Carlsbad District elementary schools have opened back up with the proper safety precautions and changes. Now all elementary grades have been transitioned properly into hybrid learning. Secondary schools will still stay in distance learning until the end of January, but small groups of students will be able to meet on campus for clubs and sports starting mid-October. We will report with more details on that as we learn them. This has been Maya Chanai, now back to your anchor.
Wow, isn't it crazy to think that we will be in virtual learning until January? Even though it might not be everyone's favorite school platform, we are slowing the spread of COVID-19 and helping our community. Now let's hear from reporters Leo Ambrogelly and Tomiris. They talked to students, parents, and teachers about how Carlsbad and Sage Creek has responded to the Black Lives Matter social movement.
I can't breathe! I can't breathe! I can't breathe! No justice, no peace! No justice, no peace!
On May 25th, 2020, in Minneapolis, Minnesota, George Floyd was killed while in police custody, sparking a wave of nationwide protests that continue more than a third of a year later. Though racial and political tensions are nothing new to the United States, these events have brought them to the forefront once more, affecting our local communities.
Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter!
Although protests duly grab headlines and attention, of equal note are the divisions created in our personal lives and neighborhoods. More and more so, the political has become the personal. Questions of identity, race, and equality have direct implications for 47 million people across our democracy. Just ask Jenny Branson, a political activist and a mother of a Sage Creek student, who recalls an interaction she had with one of her neighbors.
I have a neighbor that has the Confederate flag hanging for people to see it. And Brooklyn and I have walked by, when we speed walk, we have walked by her house. And Brooklyn told me that she felt anxious and nervous when we walked by. And so she doesn't walk, but we don't walk down that street anymore. And I mentioned, while walking past myself, I mentioned to the neighbor, she was out washing her car, I said, my daughter feels intimidated and anxious and nervous when she walks by your house. And I want you to know that. And the woman actually laughed at me. And she said, I bet she does.
Like it or not, many of our views as students are shaped in part by the adults in our communities. We are not immune from those divisions as a student body. In addition, like many other suburban areas, Carlsbad is predominantly white, with Black people of color making up less than 1% of the population. Junior Brooklyn Branson, co-president of Sage Creek's Black Student Union, feels somewhat separated from the student body because of this.
With the lack of, minority representation, not just at school, but just anywhere in general in this area, it creates this subconscious mindset where white is our normal, like and that has to be my normal too. Like my whole life, it's always been my normal is to always be the only black kid in the class or the only black woman in a class.
Though its protests have led to change in states from Maine to California, the Black Lives Matter movement also matters greatly to black people of color on our campus, on a more individual level. Senior Christian Isaiah Dorsey McQueen, co-president of Sage Creek's Black Student Union, expresses this importance.
Pretty much, it's a huge thing for us, especially right now during the COVID times, during seeing the deaths of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and Breonna Taylor, and all the injustices going on. The BLM movement is very closely connected and holds a very special place within the Black Student Union here at Sage Creek High School.
As an almost direct result of those protests, teachers at Sage Creek and in our wider Carlsbad community have taken it upon themselves to address rising tensions and the Black Lives Matter movement's claims of educational inequality. As part of the Racial Equity Action Committee, or REAC, teachers help shape curriculum and open dialogues on the subject of race. One of the leaders of this committee is Sage Creek teacher and BSU advisor Allison Williams.
We have an equity team, we have a REACT team on site right now, and this is actually something that was started a couple years ago, but we didn't really have a lot of momentum. And so now we have a pretty large 10-teacher REACT team. And earlier today, we just gave a professional development to all Sage Creek teachers on looking at their own biases and understanding things through a racial lens.
Sarah Hunter, another Sage Creek staff member and REAC leader, further clarifies what the committee aims to achieve.
I don't think that any one committee can prevent racism. I think our objective here is to begin to train and support our staff to have the important conversations of how we can support our BIPOC students and their families and really make sure that they are seen and heard, very importantly, and that our staff is equipped to recognize and respond to acts of racism when they transpire on our campus.
Student members of BSU here at Sage Creek are hopeful that they can work alongside the REACT committee to enact deeper change at our school. Brooklyn Branson believes that change will come with greater staff buy-in to the movement.
At this point, something I would really, really just love and I would consider a big achievement is definitely full-fledged support at Sage Creek from the staff. And what I mean by that is, for example, and once again, this is apples and oranges comparing these two topics, but like the LGBTQ community has full staff support at Sage Creek. If you go to any classroom, you will see that they've put in the stickers, it's a safe place. And I would just love for the staff to get on board and be able to do the same thing, but with, Black Lives Matter.
As the year progresses, we will continue to cover whatever happens next, so stay tuned to both the Sage broadcast and thesagenews.com. For now, though, this has been Leo Ambrogelly and Tomiris Gumar for The Sage.
Thanks, Leo and Tomiris, for the important information. We will continue to report on this issue throughout the school year. In sports news, what a time it is to be a San Diegan, with the Padres scoring us through the playoffs. Hit it out of the park, Cooper and Nick.
What's up, Bobcats? Most sports are finally back, and today I'll be giving you a quick update on what's currently going on in the MLB, NBA, and NFL. To start out, the Padres have moved on to the National League Division Series facing the LA Dodgers after an impressive wildcard series win against the Cardinals with strong performances from Fernando Tatis, Tommy Pham, Will Myers, and Manny Machado. The Padres are just the second team in baseball history in regular season or postseason to shut out an opponent through 9 innings using 9 pitchers. The other matchups in the division series include Yankees versus Rays, Astros versus Athletics, and Braves versus Marlins. Winner moves on to the championship series. The Padres will be playing all week at 6 o'clock on Pacific time over on Fox Sports 1. The NFL postponed the Titans versus Steelers game after 8 Titans players tested positive for COVID-19. This comes amid the league's efforts to keep players and staff safe. The Sunday morning matchup would have featured 2 of the AFC's undefeated teams. The game is now scheduled to October 25th. The Chargers are now 1-3 through their first 4 games of the season. The Rams are 3-1, and the 49ers are 2-2. The Lakers look to add another championship to their already loaded trophy case as they currently lead the NBA Finals 2-1 over the Miami Heat. Thanks for watching, and let's send it back to Malea.
Well, that's all for today, Bobcats. Make sure to follow @TheSage Publication on Instagram and head over to thesagenews.com for all the latest articles, weekend photos, and more. Have a wonderful week, Bobcats. This has just been Malea Williams reporting for The Sage.